Good afternoon, and welcome to Achenti's Workshops to Express Creativity, Engaging Canadian Seniors. It's a project made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. My name is Lecha Canton, Achenti Magazine's founding editor-in-chief. Achenti is pleased to present Workshop 6 today, Finding Your Voice, Words, Images, and Performance with Anna Camilleri. It's my pleasure to introduce our workshop leader. Anna Camilleri has been working with performance, image, and text for 25 years. Her bookworks have been recognized with distinctions by the Lambda Literary Foundation, the Association of Independent Publishers, and the American Library of Congress. Anna is also co-founder and artistic director of Redefine Arts. Anna Camilleri, welcome, and the microphone is yours.
Thank you so much for the welcome, Lecha. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with all of you and to take part in this second series that's being hosted and presented by Achenti. And it's wonderful to see all of you here today. I think I'll begin with just a little bit of an overview. Of course, I'm very curious about who's here, and I'd love to take some time to do a round of introductions, but that would actually, I think, detract from writing time. So let's just, recognize that we're going to hold some space together, we're going to create together, and we'll develop a sense of each other and our writing voices in this little bit of time together. And I guess what I want to say in the way of invitation is that I encourage you to be really comfortable wherever you are. And if you would like to turn your camera off, please do that. Camera on. I'm comfortable with whatever you need. I might invite us to take a 1 or 2 very short, like 2-minute breaks during the workshop so that we can just stretch out, and then return. And then also by way of just welcome, and I don't mean welcome to everybody in the group, but to welcome yourself to this space. I encourage you to really think of this as an opportunity to play with words today, to write from a place of, as much as possible, of just curiosity, to give yourself room to not make sense. To just see where you want to go with the writing and what wants to arrive today. So be open to the stream of consciousness and what shows up for you, if you are able. And that's actually it's a very difficult thing for me to do sometimes. So I put that out as an invitation. Do you feel ready to enter into a warm-up practice? Yeah, okay. So what I want to say about the warm-up practice is that we're not going to do any sharing related to it. It's just an opportunity for you to kind of sink in and bring poetic attention to an image that I'm going to offer. And I will ask if everybody here has the capacity to see an image that's shared on the screen. And if that's not possible, then I can present the image in a different way. So I saw some nods. I see some thumbs up. Okay. So I think I'm going to assume that we're okay. And I'm going to share my screen with an image. And so what I'm inviting you to do with this image that has appeared is to bring your poetic attention to write either a response to it or a description of what you find in this image. And this warm-up practice is just a space really to kind of stretch out, to find some words within yourself, and you'll have like 3 to 5 minutes to write, and we won't share the writing. So I invite you to sink in and see what you find. I'm going to turn my camera off and just keep the space quiet for a few minutes. I posted the image to the chat as well, in case you'd like to reference it later. And this is sort of a 1-minute cue. It's a 1-minute wind down. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And come back into the space with you. I hope you enjoyed the warm-up practice. And I'm always very curious about what shows up in the warm-up, but I think it's really important to just create some space to go, this is a warm-up. It's just a writing stretch. And then we'll continue on ahead. Do you feel ready to keep going? Yeah, okay, great. Then let's do it. I invite you to look around the space that you're currently in. And when I say look around, that looking could include your auditory field, like what you hear around you or what's within your visual field, to kind of look around the space, listen around the space, and choose one object. Choose one object that you want to spend some time with. So what I'm inviting you to do is to describe or respond to the object that you've selected. Before you start writing, I want to just kind of keep this idea open on the table for a few seconds so that everybody has an opportunity to choose an object. Choose something that you want to spend some time writing with. Have you selected your object? Okay, I see some nods, some thumbs up, and some not sure yet. So let's give it a couple more seconds. It's important that you choose an object, one object. So we'll do just a few more seconds for you to make a choice. Okay. So I'm hoping that you've all made a selection. And now this is my invitation, is to write about this object for 5 minutes. And there are two guidelines: that you're writing in the present tense, and you begin each sentence or phrase or line. So I'm not assuming anything about form, in whatever form you're writing in, that you begin each sentence, phrase, or line by naming the object. For example, the chair is. The chair is. The chair is. Okay. All right. So you've selected your object. You have 5 minutes to write about it, to describe it. You're going to write in the present tense, and you're going to begin each sentence, phrase, or line by naming the object. Okay. Go for it. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to give you a time check. We're writing for a couple more minutes. So I'll see where you're at in a couple of minutes. Welcome to new people who've arrived. I have posted a description of this practice that we're doing in the chat. And so has Licha. Thank you, Licha. Hey, everybody. It's Anna, your workshop facilitator. I'm checking in with you. Welcome again to the new people who are arriving, who have arrived. Did you have enough time to kind of sink into that practice? Do you need another minute or two? Would you like another minute or two? I see some thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay. Okay. All right. So then I'm gonna introduce the part two. And I'm just gonna check in specifically. Not sure if I'm pronouncing name correctly. Cole? Yeah. Would you like another minute or do you feel okay to move on? You're okay? Okay. All right. Then we will move on. So you selected an object in your sensory field. You wrote about it for 5 minutes. You wrote in the present tense, and you named the object throughout the piece that you wrote. So now what I'm going to invite you to do is to consider 3 words that I'm going to offer. I'm going to post them in the chat. Okay. Love, joy, grief. 3 connected words, but we can, also maybe think about for a moment which of those words you would like to spend a little bit more time with today. If you were to select one of them, that's my invitation to choose one of them. Do you know for yourself which one you'd like to go with? Not yet. Okay. Some of you do, some of you are pondering it. So what I want to invite you to do is to, in the writing that you produced, to replace the word for your object, for example, the chair, with your chosen word throughout your entire piece. Yes. So wherever it says the chair, the chair, the chair, it would now say grief is, or love is, or joy is. Yeah, and don't worry about it not making sense or making sense. Just go with it for a moment. So simply go through your writing and replace the word for your object with your chosen word. And then my invitation for you for the next 5 to 10 minutes, because now you really have a new piece, something new is emerging. And I invite you to make some choices about what you've written, to do some distillation, to let go of some words. There might be some places in what you've written that are really interesting to you that you would like to go a little bit further. And so now this piece is kind of mediated by this word that you're selecting to move forward with. Okay, so 5 to 10 minutes to kind of distill and experiment, and we're going to end up with a new creation at the end of this writing period. I will check in with you at 5 and see where you're at, and I suspect you'll want a little bit more time, and we'll probably go a bit longer. Does that sound good? Okay. Are there any questions? I welcome questions by chat, or you can bring your voice in. Eloise, do you have a question? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to put it in chat.
sure.
L'artista argentino del nuance, la sua positività riscontrata nel
I have a question.
Yeah, where's it coming?
It's Elvira.
Hello.
I'm just wondering, so the idea is to take what we wrote previously, replace it with the word grief, and then just continue with that theme. Oh, sorry, I gave you my word, the word that we chose, and then
Yes.
continue with the word and continue writing sort of.
Yeah, it's kind of like
word elicits.
yes. So there's two parts to it. That actually there's multiple parts. So you choose your word, you replace your object with the word. You read it, consider what you have in front of you, and then you make a choice that you're going to do some distillation. So you might let go of some words, and then you might also add some words. So you're kind of considering it as a whole new piece unto itself. And you might want to rewrite all of that, on a fresh piece of paper, or copy the document into a new page or a new file so you can play with it in there.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Eloise, is that helpful? Okay. Great. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm just checking in with you. How are you doing for time? Would you like a few more minutes to continue to pursue your writing? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Katerina. And I see lots of folks saying yes, you'd like some more time. So at this moment, I want to suggest that as you continue to work on your piece, that that you kind of use the structure or creative frame that I've offered, where there's a repetition of the word that you've chosen to work with throughout your piece. And the reason why I think will become clear. So I just want to invite you to kind of think about that as you continue to work. So let's take another 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll do some sharing for whoever would like to share. Okay, thank you. Just a time check for everybody. At 2:38, we're going to return to the big group together. Okay, so take the next 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and circle together at 2:38. Okay, we're gonna wrap up this writing in the next minute. And we're gonna come back into the whole group with one another at 2:38. And I share the time not to create a pressured environment, but I think that the structure might be really helpful for some folks just to have a sense of the boundaries. I like to know where the entrances and exits are. So I think of this as entrance and exit in writing practice. Okay. I would like to invite folks to share. Would anybody like to share what you discovered in this writing practice? Yeah.
Sorry, do we have to write it in the chat, or can we just explain our creative process and write in the short piece?
Okay, so there's a question about kind of how we're doing this next part. I think for now, what I'd like to invite you to do is to simply share what you wrote or a part of what you wrote.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
On the chat, do we have to write it on the chat?
You can read it out loud or you can share in the chat.
Okay. So that would be better for me if I read it, because I think it's too long to be typed in a chat.
Yeah, great. Great.
Okay, so can I start, or do I have to wait for other people?
What's your name?
My name is Carmen.
Hi, Carmen. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so the object I focused on was a pair of shoes on the floor of my kitchen, and the word I chose was joy. So my joy is still on the floor of my kitchen. My joy is there, looking at me between a blue bottle of floor soap and a brown door, begging me to take it out for a walk. My joy is sitting on the edge of an old grayish rug, quietly waiting for me, for my order to come alive. But the only thing it can hear is the wind murmuring through the open door. My joy and I are both sitting calmly, yet there is a tension between us. I feel guilty for having wasted it and for not taking enough care of it, but it only begs to be used or even consumed, because its purpose is not to be stored and waiting to be worn for the right occasion, but to be sported every day. My joy knows that if I store it for a long time, it will go dry and yellowish and break. My joy keeps asking me, almost screaming, not to let dust fall on it, not to let the sun tarnish it. Yet I'm too lazy to listen to it. The night is coming, and maybe it's too late to stroll, to take a stroll. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, who knows?
Thank you so much, Carmen.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I would like to invite anybody who feels comfortable with camera on. I invite you to turn your camera on, and if you're not comfortable, please keep it off, but it's just an invitation. It can be nice for folks who are reading to kind of see who's in the room. Would anybody else like to share?
Well, Cole has had her hand raised for a while.
Yes, go ahead, Cole. Please do share.
All right, thanks. So this is the object I chose. I don't know what it's called. There are two of them. Joy, is that its name? Old glass joy, green glass joy, or is it blue? aqua joy. On the windowsill, light comes through it, joy like an aquarium, joy that insulates, a thick cap, a heavy cup, a bell without its clapper, soundless joy, a glass hat. Who wears it? Solidly made, even if you drop it, it won't shatter. Be careful, it's heavy, not on your foot. With the heft of this joy, you could break a bone. Hold it close. You have to be strong enough to keep a grip on it, this scavenged beauty. These have no use in the world anymore. We've progressed beyond glass, beyond blue, beyond joy. Now what protects the electrical? What contains its charge?
Thank you, Cole. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm just delighting. This is so much fun to do with all of you. And it's really great to be here with you all. And Eloise, I saw your hand pop up.
Thank you.
Are you would you like to share your work, Eloise?
I would. Is
Great,
that-
great. And
That's-
that's wonderful. And Elvira, I saw your hand pop up as well. Okay, great. So let's go to Eloise and then Elvira.
Thank you. I'll show you the object after. Melancholy rests from its visit to Colin's garden. Colin, who is no more. Melancholy showers blessings from a hollow in the maple tree in Colin's garden. Its kata, now worn and torn. Colin, who is no more. Melancholy digs deep from its journey across the seas. So many times, so many places. Melancholy sits now on my deck, copper turning into turquoise, marking the passage of time. And the object was this Buddha that I had brought from India and gave it to someone in their garden in the tree with a kata, which is a Buddhist white scarf. And then Colin passed away and I have the Buddha.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Eloise.
Thank you.
Yeah. Elvira, would you like to share?
Yes, I'm going to go for it.
Okay, go for it.
My object was a truck, so it was not in my visual field, but in my auditory field. And the word I chose is grief. Mine is short. The grief digs into the earth of my alleyway. The grief lifts and lowers its steel claws, scratching at my chest as decomposing fall leaves give way under my feet. The grief is here almost every day. It reminds me I'm still here, looking for a way to leave. The grief is in a neighborhood in life that no longer fit. And that's as far as I got.
Yeah. Thank you, Elvira. Yes. I want to hold a little bit of space for a couple more people to share. Who would really like to share? Josephine, I saw your hand had popped up earlier. Yeah, great. And Steph, okay. So
sorry that I arrived late, but I'm guessing this is an object and then an emotion, right?
yeah, maybe what I'll do is for you, Josephine, I'll post the practice in the chat.
Okay.
But it's kind of a two-part practice, but go with it. Share what you've written, and then we'll go to Steph.
Okay. There's some Sicilian words in it, which I will describe in the poem. Fuma d'amore, pomodori in Italian, tomatoes, but literally apples of love. Standing in a farmer's field north of Toronto in what would now be a street corner in Maple or Woodbridge. In her black dress, di lotto, since her husband, my nonno, died. fazzoletto, kerchief tied round her head, fallaro, apron, girding her equator. I knew her only as an old woman, and now I watch as my own geography morphs towards that same rotundity. My fingers furrow into those same curves. She, feet planted in that field while we, children, stooped and plucked pomodori, filled balsa wood bushels. The color red with the scent green, that burst of late summer twisted off the vine. Bushels driven home in the trunk of the Pontiac, tomatoes laying flat on the blanketed garage floor, ripened and then peeled, crushed, strained, rendered into sugo, a sprig of garden basil for each jar. Only a few tomatoes ripen on my vine this year, my garden too little, my latitude too northern, attention sometimes waning, but I twist one off the vine this morning and bite into red memory. My nonna, standing in that field, black dress, fazzoletto, fallaro, seeds, and the warm juices of her childhood Sicilian summers running down her chin.
Thank you, Josephine. Yes. Thank you so much. Steph, would you like to share?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll just read the piece and then I'll say what the object was after. The grief is made of metal and has a copper color coating wired in a circular fashion is the way grief often comes. The grief is always plugged into the electrical outlet. The grief is not always on, but it is often, and as a result has become a trap for dust. The grief contains the memories of the room and its pieces that are coated in the dirt. The grief reminds me of how I want to clean, but I feel stuck, discouraged even, because I don't want to forget about what has been collected. It is the grief that holds a key to the past, the present, and the future at once, and cleaning the grief would be a reset, thus more loss. The grief is like a clock, but rather than arms measuring chronological time, it measures memory and its collection of dust, skin cells, dirt particles, allergens, all stuff that we find unhealthy or take for granted, much like many of our memories. The grief is more than grief. It is a reminder of how time passes, circulates, and as air is reused, and what feels fresh is old, and what feels old is fresh, a regenerative cyclical process that could easily be disregarded as an obsession occurs. The grief tells me not to touch the wires, the blades that circulate. Instead, it is either off or on repetitively. That's about my metal fan.
Yes. Thank you, Steph. I guess I just want to say, as a human being in this space, I feel lifted by hearing your words and just the kind of the magic that was created by these kind of a really simple entry points. Yeah, and I just feel very thankful that you've accepted the invitation and have just pursued this writing practice that really revolves around like just kind of trusting how I'm guiding you. So thank you for going with it. I just want to reflect back what we've done in our time together. So we did a warm-up writing practice in response to a photo that I shared. I will, before the end of the workshop, repost the photo so everybody has access to it. And it was like a description or a creative response. We did not share the warm-up writings. And then this practice, there was an invitation to select an object in your sensory field and then to describe the object, to write in the present tense and use the word for the object, for example, the chair, again and again, at the beginning of every sentence or phrase or word string that you wrote. And then you did a distillation process, replacing the name of the object with a word that you chose. And I offered 3: grief, joy, and love. And this is where we got to. So just a little overview. If we were to pursue this practice further, what I would invite us to do is to separate into, and maybe I'll just share this with you because I know many of you here also facilitate and are writers, and this is an interesting practice. So if we were to pursue it further, then I would say let's break out into rooms separated by the word, the kind of the groupings of the grief poems, the love poems, and the, what is the other word? Help me, everybody.
Joy.
Joy. The joy and the joy poems. And then in those small breakout rooms or in the groups, to do another process of distillation where each of you choose 2 or 3 lines of your piece together and then combine them and then share that writing as kind of a new collaborative poem and experiment with the performance voice. It's a very fun practice. It could be frustrating. Collaboration is both exciting and it can be frustrating, you know, because sometimes you just kind of, you know, we don't want to collaborate. We do and we don't, right? That tension line. So we could do that, or we could move into a new practice. So kind of like me sharing a vision for how we could continue to evolve that might be enough for you to go, yeah, that's interesting and I'd like to try it, or I want to move on to a new place. So maybe I'll just put that out. Like, I know that we're not going to have consensus on it, but I'll just kind of check the weather on kind of how you want to play together for the next little bit. Like, would you like to experiment with this kind of collaborative practice or venture into a new place? Okay, so we're going to move to a new place together. And before we do that, I'm going to invite us all to take just a 1 or 2 minute body break, have a stretch, get a drink of water, use the bathroom, and in the next 2 minutes, we will return and keep going. Okay. Okay, everybody, we're going to continue writing together in the next minute. And I just want to let you know that I posted in the chat the image that we used in the very first warm-up writing practice. And folks are just arriving back in. Welcome. Welcome from the many places that you're calling in from. I am here with you, calling in from Toronto Treaty 13 territory in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Turtle Island. If you would like to, I welcome you to add to the chat the place in the territory you're calling in from. It's really great to have a sense of how we're holding this circle together today and the different points that support this circle of creative writing. Great. Okay. I'm going to guide us into a new writing practice. And do you feel ready? Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to enter into, I'll call it a character, a kind of a character sketch exercise. I invite you to imagine somebody who you know reasonably well, with whom you have a personal relationship. You're going to do a little bit of writing, but before we write kind of about this selected person, I'm going to guide you into creating a kind of inventory. So my invitation is for you to write a series of point form responses, kind of answers to the questions that I offer. Before we go into it, it's really important that you've selected a specific person in your life. So I'm just doing a check-in. Do you have that person in mind? So this is somebody you know reasonably well. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so you've selected a person, and now you're going to write a point form list. It's basically an inventory. You're going to answer some of the questions that I'm asking. And as we go along, I'm going to post the questions in the chat. So we're going to begin with a few questions. What irritates them? How is irritation expressed? In a situation where there's conflict, how would they behave? Would this person try to smooth things over, avoid the situation by leaving or becoming silent, or directly confront the problem? Is there anything they save? I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to post that series of questions in the chat. There are more. And I'm going to read them all out loud again before I go on to the next series. Do they have an everything drawer or a junk drawer? What's in that drawer? What is their evening routine like? Do they eat dinner at home, at a restaurant, alone, with family? If they are getting on a train or a bus, would they choose a spot at the front, the middle, or the back, the window, or the aisle? Do they wear headphones? Do they wear headphones with no sound playing? Okay, I'm posting the series of questions. So the thing that's important about these questions in this inventory is it's really based on your understanding of who this person is. This isn't about how this person would answer these questions, but about how you answer the questions, how you observe them in the world, your relationship, your proximity to them, right? Are you ready for a few more questions? Not yet. Eloise, okay, I'll pause for a sec. I'll pause. I got it. So you're writing point form responses. They're just kind of, little brush strokes. And yes, for those of you who feel ready for the next questions, I will share them now. Okay, next questions. How do they answer their home or cell phone? Are they, do they open mail immediately or wait? Do they have a favorite color? How is this expressed? What does the inside of their wardrobe or closet look like? Do they have a community or communities that they identify with or feel at home in? How is this expressed? And I will pause there. There's another short list. Okay, so I just posted those new questions in the chat.
Sorry, if I don't know if it's just me, but I only see the first set of questions in the chat.
Oh, okay, that's strange. Let me see what's going on. Do they wear headphones? No? I see what I've posted in the chat, so I'm a little bit, I'm not sure. Oh, you know what the problem is? This is the problem. I am posting to Eloise and not everybody. Okay. Okay. So now everybody has that last set of questions, and let me go back and make sure that you have all of the questions. Okay, so now what I've just posted is the previous set of questions. And there's going to be one more short set. Okay, so I'm going to post the last set of questions in the chat. What sense is most important to them? Sight, touch, smell, taste. How does this inform who they are? Describe in a few sentences your character's physicality, which might be hard to do, but imagine, if you would, how they sit or occupy space on public transit. That might be helpful, like just kind of see them in a space. What's the tenor of their voice? Does it change in different circumstances? What objects are significant to or prized by this person? Is their laughter different in different rooms or places? Are there objects that connect you to them, to this person? Okay, so we're just going to take another minute to keep going with the inventory. So just point form brushstrokes. And I'm not sure if it's Licha or Maria Pia who's been reposting the questions in their groupings. Thank you for doing that. So my last question for you is, or invitation is for you to review your inventory and just consider what most compels you in this inventory. Is there something that's particularly interesting to you? Just what's compelling? So take a minute to review what you've written and consider what is particularly interesting or compelling to you. And then we're going to move on and do some writing with this inventory. Okay, who feels ready to move on to do some writing? Yeah? Okay. So my invitation to you now is to, using what you've discovered, write a 1 or 2 paragraph description of your character. And you can do this in first person or third person. I'll leave that entirely up to you. But grounded in your discoveries, grounded in this inventory that you produced, to write for the next, say 5 to 8 minutes, 1 or 2 paragraphs where you're describing your character. Okay. I'll give you a time check when we get to 5 minutes. Time check, everybody. How is it going with the writing? Would you like another minute? Who would like more time? A couple of folks. Okay. So so let's keep the writing space open for another minute or two, and then we'll come back together. Okay, everybody, we're going to come back into the circle together to do a little bit of sharing. I'd like to reflect that we're here together from many different places, from Mississauga, Ontario, to Calabria, Italy, Montreal, Calgary, Northampton, Massachusetts, Beaconsfield, Quebec. Yeah, it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful to be here with all of you. Yeah, I'd like to invite some sharing, and it would be great to hear from some folks who we haven't heard with, just in the way of invitation. Is anybody interested in sharing what they've found today? I'm looking at your faces. I'm listening carefully. Hi, Josephine. Yeah.
I did share already, but I wrote this for the eldest of my 3 children. They walk the earth fiercely, confidently, grounded in self-knowledge and discovering the mysteries and wisdom of nature. They seek, they question, they find. Enough is never enough. Their heart-encompassing love of family, of partner, of self, of community. They are fearless. Their 8-year-old self cried at the end of horse camp to say goodbye. They offered to come out and spend a week with Nonna to give me respite. They fill my kitchen with the scent of sauces and herbs and a pie baking with pears picked off my tree. They speak to chickens and know the plants by name. They sent me a bag of treasures from the sea, shells and feathers and pebbles. They flew out when Nonna was sick, drove from Victoria to Toronto to visit so they wouldn't bring COVID from the plane. They wrote a dedication for their brother's wedding that made us all laugh and cry. Their love, a sword and a shield.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Josephine. Yeah. Would anybody else like to share? And Eloise is here from Vancouver. I'll just say, Eloise, I had no idea that I was personally chatting with you, and I thought it was the whole group.
I can share.
Yeah, Federica, go ahead.
Okay. She's been avoiding him for days. She said to me, I swear to you, he is annoying. He really gets on my nerves. And here we go again, another crisis. I've told her she should be more patient and open-minded about it. Mediocrity? Absolutely not. I can imagine her eyebrows rising in disdain at your mediocre words and analysis of a work of art. You're stupid. How could you not see how much there's behind what you're seeing? She's so annoyed at people who cannot push their minds forward, coming up with extraordinary and original ideas. She got angry at him again, and of course, she couldn't but let him know how much his ideas sucked. He had only asked for advice, poor soul.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Thank you, Federica. Licha, are you thinking about sharing?
I can share. It's a
Yeah.
bit of a mishmash.
Yeah.
Okay. He stands tall, really tall, and not too thin. Gorgeous man. Usually wears a fedora in winter. He angers me with his obsession with neatness. His closet is sort of neat. He cooks but doesn't clean. He cooks but clears the counter first by filling both sinks rather than putting stuff away in dishwasher or cupboards. He smiles. Oh, a smile that beams, beams, beams. He's loving. But when he gets angry, he gets really angry. He likes to finish my sentences, interrupts my stories, likes to be center stage, pouts, pouts, pouts. Somewhat controlling, I would say, but then not so much compared to all other men I know. Has a competitive nature. I'm not his competitor, but I am often put in that slot by him. You are so fortunate to be with such a wonderful man, my sister says. Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you, Licha. Thank you so much. Yeah, Steph.
One sec, sorry. Okay. The inside of her closet is organized by the textures of fabric rather than the type of clothing, which is why when we tried to share a closet, given there are clothes of ours we allow each other to wear, it was impossible to come up with the system of where they all would go, how they could be coupled. I was irritated by her inability to compromise, yet she always tried to work with me to find solutions. We could move a single sweater to another area and nothing felt right about it, but she still tried to appease the fact that our closet organization conditions were incommensurable. Her sense of touch is more important than other senses, revealing how the textures would be more influential on her process, whereas I prefer visual information about what type of item I'm searching for. We both have the same favorite color, purple, so we could at least agree those items could stay together. Otherwise, it is best for now we have separate closets.
Thank you, Steph. Yeah. Carmen, are you thinking about reading?
Well, I actually picked by mistake four points, so I don't know if my piece is worth reading.
Aha. I don't know. I can't answer that question for you. I think if you would like to share something of what you've written, then yeah, the space is open.
Okay, so I can try. Okay. As a very anxious person, she always sounds angry even when she's not. She's a little bit too loud sometimes, especially when she sees or hears something that she doesn't like. And the things she doesn't like are many. For example, and that's a paradox,
Hmm.
she hates loud noises and people responding to her when she reproaches them. She would like them to be quiet, yet she keeps provoking them even unsolicitedly. The second thing that she doesn't like are people not answering her calls or messages, because she always answers on time. And if you don't, you're not being respectful. The third thing that she can stand is having to do with narrow spaces. She's a little bit of a claustrophobic. She would go mad if she couldn't have a seat next to a window in a train, or if somebody shuts windows and curtains in her house. The fourth thing she doesn't like is other people's judgments. Sometimes she cares about it too much. If somebody calls her fat, she stops wearing her white shirts and light blue scarves, and she would opt for darker colors. I guess I was being too generic, and I'm sorry that I understood the assignment.
You that was really wonderful. You didn't do anything wrong. It was really wonderful. I think all of the writings that are shared, maybe we'll just hold some space for people to share observations, but I feel like by entering the realm of character through this kind of this window of description, of observation, it brings empathy, but there's also some space to kind of make observations. And how we populate our world, how we move through space says so much about, who we all are. So I feel like these very rich, they're short, kind of brief portraits, but they're all quite rich. So yeah, really well done, everybody. Really well done. We just have a few minutes together, so I just want to open the space, like maybe for anybody who would like to speak, to just kind of, you could say a few words about your experience, any reflections on the writing workshop today, or your process or discoveries. It's a very open invitation. So yeah.
I'd like to thank you very much for this workshop. It was very stimulating for me. Although I didn't share, I did a lot of writing, and that's what brought me here. I wanted to get going, and the exercises were so wonderful. They've brought up so much stuff. It feels very rich, and I loved hearing everything. It was a very nice group of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Yeah.
I'd like to thank you, Anna, also. Both of the exercises were meaningful to me, and I'm sure to everyone. And I wanted to thank Josephine. I never knew that pomodori meant apple of love. And then I saw that we have amoroso and amato here. And I was thinking about all the words of love that Italian has.
Thanks, Eloise.
I wanted to really thank you. I think everybody's work that's been read has been really phenomenal to begin with. And how you've been also teaching us, I think, is phenomenal. So I just wanted to personally share something. So I've been experiencing some memory loss over the last probably 7 or 8 months. So this is the first workshop that I've attended to get that creative outlet back. And for me, writing is something that I've done really since a young child, and that was my go-to. So this is very meaningful, very, very meaningful. And everybody's work is tremendous. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lorella. Thank you.
Thanks. I can't say more. Obviously, everybody said what I would have liked to have said. I'd like to say that I was totally amazed with the actual productions. Everybody, was able to write and then produce something that was like amazing. And that's probably why I didn't share. I thought mine wasn't good enough. I know, Licha, that's it, but everybody was amazing. I mean, Carmen, holy cow, good stuff. And Cole, beautiful. I mean, and Josephine, I really liked the Pomodoro too. That was beautiful. I mean, yeah, continue on. I loved it.
Thank you, Anna.
You continue on, Anna.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eloise.
I liked how you did the 3 words. You know, like I had chosen my cell phone as my object, and then I put in the word grief, and I thought, wow, I can't believe, you know, how that one word can be changed, and this, you know, what came out of it just with the 5 minutes that we wrote. It's
Yeah.
quite a nice exercise. I like it.
I'm glad you found it helpful or useful. You know, I find out with writing that my my intellect, especially in the beginning phases of writing, kind of gets in the way, where I try to think my way into the writing, and instead what helps me to write is to enter through a different doorway. So the doorway that I choose often is kind of a sensory doorway in through description, you know, and then when I'm ready in the writing process to make room for kind of interpretation or analysis, but to not start there. So yeah, and I sincerely believe that everybody, we all have many stories and poems and pieces in us, and you know, and it's about the kind of like having entry points, creating entry points with ourselves or finding entry points with others. Steph, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to express appreciation for learning about that approach today, because I find I prefer to write like how I talk, but that doesn't always come first. So having these prompts, I feel like has helped me think about ways I can cut through right into that, because it's hard to write about, especially like emotional subject matter, and not intellectualize it immediately. So I really appreciate all these exercises and being here with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. You're welcome. Maybe I'll just invite, since we're at 3:30, but for those who are in the Toronto area, tomorrow there's a launch of a podcast called Brazen Femme. It's an anthology that I co-created and co-edited with Chloe Bushard-Rose. It was published in 2002. The event is happening at the Archives, that's ARQUIVES, in Toronto tomorrow. It's the LGBTQ2S+ archives. But the podcast series was developed by Andy Swartz, and it's going to be available online. So, you know, if you're nowhere near Toronto, but you're curious, then you can, and if that text Brazen Femme means anything to you, then you can pursue the podcast online. And then I have an exhibition opening at Tangled Art and Disability with my collaborator, Waijang Ku, next month. And that opens on November 24th. And we're also doing a number of hybrid and online events. So, you know, that's just some of the things that I'm working on, and they're community connected projects. So yeah, just in the way of invitation, I would love to find or see any of you in any of those spaces. Yeah, Eloise.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way to share that information with us. Like I couldn't come to the opening because I'm in Vancouver, but I would love to hear about the podcast and the other workshops that you're giving. They might be online.
And maybe I'll check in with Licha. I would be happy to send out an email, and then Licha, if you're okay to distribute it, I would be happy to do that.
Yeah. Also, if there's anything that you want to put now in the chat, like your website address or the information for the event tomorrow. But yeah, I'm a little bit slow. Today's Friday, so if there's anything that it's immediate, I would rather you put it in the chat, and then anything else that is not tomorrow, you can send to me, and I'll pass it on. Yeah. Were there any other questions? Or Anna, do you have any final comments before I close officially?
No, I don't have any final comments. But thank you so much, Steph, for posting the link in the chat. I really appreciate it. Yeah, just
Thank
yeah,
you.
just a lot of appreciation to all of you here. It was sincerely a joy to be with you in this writing space.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
creating this space, and I could feel the authenticity in everything that was shared and all the comments that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
very, very much, Anna. It's been such an inspiring workshop. And I'd also like to thank all of you for being here, for participating, and for sharing. And those of you who didn't share, Anna Maiolo, keep your stuff. Don't chuck it, because I
Yes.
know that, you know, sometimes you look at something and you're like, oh, this is not good. But look at it again next week or next month and, you know, rework it or show it to someone. So I'd like to invite you to join us next week for workshop 7. That's on Friday, October 27th at 12 noon Eastern time on Zoom. And that's writing and dancing across cultures and time zones during COVID with Jane Callan. And then workshop 8 will be on Thursday, November 23rd from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Carolyn Bennett will be leading the workshop titled Finding the Funny, How to Mine Your Life for Laughs. So please check the Acenti site for past and future workshops. Our past workshops are available on YouTube, on Acenti's YouTube channel. You can go to acenti.ca/workshops. And thank you all for being here today. Acenti's workshops to express creativity, engaging Canadian seniors is made possible through the financial support of Employment and Social Development Canada as part of the New Horizons Seniors Program. I hope you have a great weekend. It's Friday.
Thank you.
It's Friday. Thank you so much, Licha. And thank you, Maria Pia. And thanks, everybody.
Everybody.